So I think God called us early on to become foster parents. And it was actually through an orphan care weekend that somebody was setting up a table in the mall in Fort Collins, Timberline. And they were, gosh, I don't even know what made us go over there and talk to them, but
it was daylight savings and we forgot.
That's what it was.
We were young and we didn't know, oh wait, church doesn't start for a full hour.
And so we got there early and we started talking to the people that were setting up their tables, and he was talking to us about adoption, and we're like, I know, it's just so expensive, isn't it? And he's like, did you know that it's really not, that there are a lot of kids in foster care that need you to adopt them right here in their own backyard, and that the average person spends less than $500 through the entire adoption process. And we're like, no, we had no idea. And at this point, I was already doing some mentoring with adoption, or excuse me, with some kids from that were in foster care. And so we got having this conversation with him, and God really laid on our hearts that at some point in our journey, we would probably do some foster care. And that was actually before we were even married.
Yeah, we were still dating.
Right. And then fast forward to we were pregnant with Brock, and we ended up having him 11 weeks premature. And through a series of events, we found out we probably shouldn't have more kids. And even though we tried to pursue having more biological children, God really closed those doors for us and really opened all the doors at the same time to lead us down the path of foster care. So we found ourselves ready to go do foster care and pursue that option. And it wasn't even like it was something we were excited about necessarily. We felt this calling, like we were ready to go down this path. And I remember sitting in church for like 6 months before we ever got certified and just bawling, especially at the ocean song, that hill song, like take me deeper, and I just bawl my eyes out knowing this is where I was supposed to be. When we were in Guatemala on our mission trip, we would serve and we would hold those babies, and I knew we were going to go down this path of being adoptive parents. And so that was kind of what led us into becoming foster parents. And then once we were certified, we were placed with Malin and Abiel. They were our first placement. And it was very clear right away that we were together for a reason, whether that was going to be for a month or a year or forever. God definitely placed us together for a good reason. And it was wonderful at first, and maybe for like an hour or two.
Honeymoon.
You talk about the honeymoon period, and it was great for like an hour. And then it was really, really hard. And we came to church every single Sunday and I bawled my eyes out every single Sunday. And Anne was there to kind of pick me up and feed me a donut and send me into church and get a break and get a message of restoration and hope. And on we went with a little bit of hope, just enough to last us till the next week. But it was a constant struggle, and it was really hard. But I think that was where our church community came in and loved us right where we were at when we needed it.
What surprised us most is the preparedness that we thought we were prepared for. Caseworker rolls up, and here's Malin and Abiel. We're still working on getting their medical history. We're still working on what this EpiPen's for. But good luck. It's a Friday afternoon. We asked for their Medicaid numbers. Yeah, we'll be getting those on Monday, hopefully, for you guys. And so it was the scaredness of that, but also with the honeymoon, highlight of, oh my gosh, we have 2 kids, and we have Brock as the third, and we're so excited. And it lasted for a couple hours, like we said, the first hour or so. Malin played with Brock. There was an instant connection. They were excited. They were driving their Power Wheels together. Abiel was still Abiel was what, 7 months?
7 months.
7 months old when we first got him. So just newborn feeling to us, and we hadn't had that since Brock, and we really didn't get to hold Brock a lot when he was a baby with oxygen and being born so premature, and so we had all these highlights there. But as the night went on, maybe you can talk about kind of how Malin acted and how we had to deal with that.
Yeah, I think some of the hard parts are with trauma behavior and not knowing what that looks like. It can look like so many different ways in so many different kids, but for Malin, we were expecting temper tantrums. We were expecting outward behavior, and instead we got a kid who was very withdrawn and a kid who was terrified to mess up. And so she was perfect and then froze anytime that she was scared. still struggles with that. And how do you draw a kid out like that? How do you have a moment of, oh, I forgot the car keys, and not have her freak out? And when she would freak out, anytime I go, she would freak out for, an hour or two. And it was hard. It was really hard to relax and be yourself. It was hard to say, this is tough just to take care of kids, extra kids in the house, to make meals with 3 kids versus 1 kid. It was just a huge transition. And to have all these behaviors of kids that I didn't know what their history was. I didn't know where it came from. And I didn't know how to help them. And it was a huge barrier between Chris and I.
Huge strain on our relationship. Every time I would burst, Malin or Abby would burst. And then it would be this constant tug and pull where we would try to be calming each other down, but we also were frustrated with each other because of the constant, oh my gosh, why did you show emotions? Or why were you frustrated in that moment? Because then we were easy. We had our training and we had all of that to work, and we had somewhat of a, childhood where we knew how to regulate our emotions, but they did not. And so, if I got frustrated as little as, like Liz said, oh my gosh, where's my keys? That would flip, we call it flipping the lid, where that would, Malin would shut down, or Abiel would cry, or vice versa, for hours. And it would be calming down. And so we're not just going to the grocery store anymore. We're now dealing with a trauma or a trigger that we didn't know about. And so that was a toll on our relationship over and over, day by day. Or I would leave the house and get relief because I'd go to work. Liz is still there with our kids, come home and, hey, I need a break. And I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know what the dynamics of the day was. And that was very hard to learn. Brock was completely different with total different needs. Still needed needs, but it's totally different.
Yeah. I think it was a huge transition for us. And while all parenting is hard, it's always going to be an extra asking of yourself. Fostering was incredibly difficult in that season because it wasn't just asking more from that parent that had that bond that was also loved. It was building that bond of love with a kiddo, and a kiddo that had that most sacred relationship of parent and child completely broken and completely taken away from them. So how can they ever trust that parent figure in their life when that relationship has been proven not to work for them? And so it was this constant proving of ourselves of, I'm going to be here for you. I will pick you up after Sunday service. I will pick you up after school. I promise when I take you to the doctor that we're not going to hurt you. And these promises that because they have been proven correct, that they will get hurt or they will get left. They'd been proven that so many times in their early childhood that it took so much longer to prove it on the other end of, no, this is what a safe family is. And so it took so much time to build that level of trust. And every time there was any sort of trigger that sent them back, we were building that from the ground up again. So I think a real turning point was when we were able to finalize adoption, and we were able to have just a finality to our family that said, we're here forever. And then we got to prove that's what forever means. And yeah, I'll love you even when you have a meltdown. And yeah, even when you mess up, I'm going to love you. And we still have to prove that again and again and again. And so it's absolutely everything I think a lot of us parents can relate to. But then there's a different level of intensity because they've already been proven right the other way too. So there's this constant mistrust.
And I think a big thing is consistency in our family. When the kids are still in foster care, they are still attending supervised parent visits, or they're still going to some kind of parent interaction, if it's mom or dad involved, or mom or just dad, or grandma or kinship. And so continuing that was very hard. And so that turning point, I think, was definitely adoption. Finalizing that adoption, moving towards a permanency plan. And now that the kids were fully adopted, we then could start implementing procedures and plans that we do. As a foster parent, we have restrictions that the biological parents have. Some of them could be jumping on a tram, or it could be going to a party, or various things like that. And so actually having mom and dad, rules and household rules that would work with our family was really cool. And I think that started building a bond. And like Liz, just touched base on, it's still today, we are your forever family. We are not going anywhere. Even if you have a meltdown or a blow up, or Abiel right now is going through a stage where I drop him off at Timber Kids and I have to play with him. I have to play a game. I have to ease out of that because it's something triggered him in some past that he's worried that dad's not going to come back. And so we spend 10 minutes in Timber Kids every time, every week, every Sunday, playing, checkers, playing the frog game, all those fun games that are in Timber Kids. We're breaking up that transition and then saying, I will be back. I will come back. We set a timer on our watch and I come back every time. And so that's the transition, but it is lesser and lesser. It used to be where we would hand them off and they would cry this whole time and they eventually forget why they were so upset halfway through the service. Now it's just a transition period and we are back there. And so, it's definitely a lot easier, but it's not perfect still.
It's not gone. All of the same trauma is still there, but the recovery time is so much shorter,
We early in our training with foster care, it was not if you need counseling, it's when you need counseling. And so that was something that I was really against. Liz was very for, as her degree at CSU was very pro counseling with human development and family studies stuff. And I had never been to a counselor before. And so when we designed and decided to do this whole program, I put off the paperwork. I delayed some of our stuff. Liz was more proactive. So I want to be very clear that it is a tug and a pull relationship with this, that it is if, a husband or a wife is not 100% on board. I was not 100% on board with adopting or even foster caring this journey. And it was sticky, it was messy, but at the same time, it brought me and Liz on a closer relationship. And it really, throughout this journey, has put us through our steps, our triggers and traumas that we hadn't handled. So we did a lot of counseling sessions as a family, we've done a lot of counseling sessions as a couple, so we've done a lot of counseling sessions as individuals. And I want to be very clear that there's a season for every family, and that it might be your season that you're feeling a tug and a pull on your heart, but there's also a season for people that are supportive. And Liz, you can go into how many families have supported us over the years of various things.
I think first of all, it was a drip that got us to the point of being ready to be foster parents too. I think there was that early pull from the orphan care weekend at Timberline Fort Collins. But then I had also been doing mentorship with girls in out of foster care for many years before that. So I was already familiar with the world of foster care. But it still took us 10 years to get there.
Yeah.
To get to the place where we said, okay, we're ready to step in to be foster parents. And it didn't happen overnight. It went through a lot of training. And even after, we were like, we're ready. We feel prepared. We're excited for our first placement. It came and we're like, we have no idea what we're doing. We were absolutely sure. Our small group was a wonderful support to us when we were like, I have to get away and figure out what the heck I'm doing. And truth be told, I actually was going to call our caseworker. We got our kids placed on a Friday. And by Saturday, I was sure that on Monday, I was calling our caseworker and saying I couldn't do this. And it was our small group that came and said, well, it was Ann that came on Sunday morning and welcomed our family and shoved a donut in my face and told me to get a break. And then it was our small group that next week that said, we're coming to your house, we're going to babysit your kids, and you're going to go out and have a dinner together. And we did. And I'm not even sure, I don't even remember where we went. I'm not sure we left our car. I may have just cried in the car, but it was what we needed. We've had many, many moments where we just have failed miserably. And yet, when we come back to center, we come back to God, and we focus on what we know to be true with the way God's loved us and the way that our training has prepared us to be foster parents, we come back, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have lost my temper with you. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have blown that. I'm sorry, I should have said this. And we come back and we fix it. And even though we have made many, many, many mistakes, our kids see that it's okay to make those mistakes. And we've shown them how to come back and fix them. And to heal as a family. And I think that's really been the part where we've been able to heal and thrive as a family, not in being perfect, not by any means, but by coming back and correcting those things. I'm so grateful for the people that were in our community that did help support us, from the John and Kirsten Mells that would babysit Brock when I needed to go down to Denver and take the kids to a visit, or the Linda Russells that came and dropped off clothes on our front porch relentlessly, where I'm like, oh no, we don't need it. But she's like, yeah, you do. And we did. To people in our small group who would just come over and just see how we were doing, or bring a meal, or come help us move when we needed it. The amount of support was so important. And even though it wasn't that their calling was to be a foster family, they were called to support a foster family, and that was huge for us. Like, we couldn't have gotten through without them.
And we've heard of, we are with foster care, support groups and stuff. We've heard of people that have said, we drop our laundry on the front porch and a group comes and picks it up. They wash it today. They have it all folded. It's back in the basket when I come home with my kids from visits and stuff. We've heard that, various things. We've heard that kids went on walks with people, just to the park while mom and dad got dinner ready or cooked and cleaned, cleaning the house, it is very hard, I think, in the human nature to accept help. We got this. It's very easy to put a shell on and say, no, we got this all figured out. But I think all foster families, all adoptive families, even people that have finalized adoption, still could use assistance in one time or another in different seasons. And I think just asking, extending, hey, how's everything going, is just as much as let us make you a meal.
Right.
Big deal.
Right. Not necessarily coming and just doing something for them, or assuming that when they say, oh no, we're fine, that they really are fine, but just listening. How are you doing? And listening for those gaps that you can fill. Oh, it sounds like, or I went to Costco and I got way too many apples. Can I drop off some apples at your front porch? Or can I make you guys a pie? I think people are really willing to accept that. We really have been. And we've seen other foster families that have really thrived with just getting that kind of tangible support and prayer support and text support,
Yes.
Just, hey, thinking of you guys, how are you doing, has meant the world to us.
Absolutely. When you're doing God's work and it's purposeful and God has a purpose, I feel like, I'm not justifying, I know you work hard, but it's like most meetings you come out of, you're like, oh, it was just served to me. Like, it was like God's working, like, with all these people to make it happen. And it's just like, it's unbelievable when you share what your experience are coming out of meetings and just what you guys collaborated together as a group with DHS and churches and Project 127. It just blows my mind of what God is working in everybody individually.
Yeah, I think that's where passion meets people that work hard. But I do not always think it comes easy. Yeah, on the phone to Chris, I'm like, it is in a season, and it's so great. And it will not always be like this, but it's a season of like, yes, and let's go.
And it's like multiple churches coming, like, it's like there's a huge movement in Northern Colorado.
There's a collaboration happening, and there's a movement.
And Liz up here, literally pretty much by herself with Project 127. Denver is like, what are you doing? Like, who do you know? And Liz is like, I'm not. It's God.
It is.
It's God moving in all these people. And there's no explaining it in words for you. It's like you walk into a room and people are like, how can I help? We want to do this. And it's not just Timberline, not our Timberline family. It's, City Light Church. There's so many, like, Well County DHS, 100% on board. Like, what can we do? How can we be involved in this?
Yeah.
With churches.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's so cool.
I can't even say all the things that people have done.
You try replicating what Timberline has done.
Yes.
And you give those resources and that support on stage at other churches to try mirroring what our church family has done.
Well, just to equip people in their own skills, whether that's praying, whether that's shoving a donut in someone's face, or whether that's doing their laundry. That's what we want for other churches. One time, Malin, she's at school, she's in first grade, and they ask her, what do you want to be when you grow up? And this was after she had been with our family for almost 3 years. And she wrote, when I grow up, I want to be a mom. And she says this all the time. And she doesn't just want to be a mom, she wants to be a safe mom. I'm like,
safe mom.
That's a legacy that, is being left, that her life has changed, that she doesn't just want to be now. Like, she wants to be a safe mom. She wants to give this to another kid. She talks all the time about how she wants to be a mom, not only of her own biological kids, but also of her own adopted kids. And she wants to be a foster mom, even if that means she doesn't get to adopt. And we changed that story because we were able to step in and share God's love with her and have that connection.